Hello everyone, this is the Kobold Helper. We're going to have another D&D 5th edition house rules that make sense. First up, a house rule for the sword. This is a continuation of attempting to make the weapons have some distinction, to have a very specific reason why you might choose to wield one weapon or another, to give it some real meaning in the game. So again, to recap, you have your battle axe, longsword, and warhammer, for example. By the base rules, they all do d8 damage. They're all versatile, and just the slightest difference in damage type. Which the problem is that the designers did not make damage type very impactful in the game. There are some things, don't get me wrong, but it's just not a lot. So what we want to do is have a really distinct reason to choose these very different weapons. And so focusing on the swords, what is a sword? A long shaft of sharpened metal. It's extremely effective at parrying, blocking away or locking up any other weapon coming down trying to strike you. So a simple house rule that gives a sword real meaning to the game is parrying, +1 AC against melee attacks. You don't diminish the defensive value of choosing to go with a shield. The shield is just outright better with +2, plus it protects you against range attacks. So it's just a nice bonus. Wielding the sword is going to give you just a little bit of an edge to knock away other melee attacks. If you're dual wielding a sword, it makes perfect sense to me that it becomes +2. Now, the one thing I would say is I wouldn't say that this applies to the humble dagger. It just seems to be a little bit too short of a weapon to be effectively able to block blows across the board. So your scimitar, your rapier, your great sword, they all would have this parrying effect of +1 AC against melee attacks. And then that gives everybody an interesting reason to choose to wield a sword. All right, that's our first one. Okay, let's go to our second house rule that makes sense. This one's on minor illusion. So why do we need a house rule? Let's read some text. If a creature uses its action to examine the sound or image, the creature can determine that it is an illusion with a successful intelligence investigation check against the spell DC. Well, that seems straightforward enough. But the problem is when you get into an actual combat, it's very ambiguous. So what do I mean by that? So the player casts the minor illusion, creates the decoy. That's almost always what the player is trying to do. So now it's my turn to activate the monster. So, if a creature uses its action to examine, okay, can I just choose not to? I just choose to not believe it, and I go attack the wizard. Well, that doesn't seem right. But what am I supposed to do? The text does not explain to me when a monster is constrained or required to try to deal with or make the decision on what to do regarding this illusion at all. It just explains if they choose to try to stare at it, how you're supposed to handle it. So what am I supposed to do? 50-50 chance, closest thing. It's up in the air. So this is why we need a house rule. You got a player. This is their thing, and so you want them to feel like they're doing it. But at the same time, it's a cantrip. They could be casting this every turn. And are you telling me then that every time a decoy is brought up, one of my monsters is compelled to run over to it and swing at it and then realize it's not an illusion? Effectively, you have a spell that cancels a turn. A cantrip. That's incredibly powerful when you think about it. So I don't like that at all. This is my house rule. And I think it's a great balance between allowing the illusionist to do their thing and dialing this back to sanity. Illusionist casts the decoy. It's the monster's turn. I just immediately make the intelligence investigation check. Nothing to do with consuming your action. If they fail it, this creature is then convinced this illusion is real, and I will do everything to have them go ahead and attack the illusion. If it's a situation where attacking the illusion is really strange, like they wouldn't run past somebody to attack it, that's how I handle it. But do everything you can that's sensible to go ahead and take the bait, as the caster wants you to do. But it doesn't consume your entire action, and you have a chance to realize it's a fake. And then, if another illusion is cast in the same combat, that same creature or other creatures that were witnessing it now have a sense that something's up, and I would give them advantage on the illusion. So they still have to make the roll, but now they at least have advantage. And this really, this just brings this cantrip, again, requires no spell slots, down to earth about what I think it was supposed to be with respect to combat. And don't forget, this goes both ways. If I can have monsters that can be casting this cantrip every turn, and you're going to tell players, well, you just have to take your whole action to try to disbelieve it. They're not going to like that either. So I think when you present it to your players that way, they're going to be very, very much in agreement with what you could argue is relaxing this slightly. But just be very upfront, make this very objective. What you don't want is this to become sort of like a wishy-washy, I'm just kind of winging it decision during games. You just want this to be very objective, and the players know how it's going to go down. So that's my house rule that makes sense around Minor Illusion for your illusionist wizards. Okay, that's all for this time, folks. See ya.